Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Right, so we are in the shop and it is time to start getting all the second fix and things like that sorted. So we've already got the light panels have already been wired in now. We've done the outside lights that are going to be shining down for the front of the shop, so that's all sorted. So Lou is just taking care of the final bits of the office and storage area. So he's just taking care of those bits as we speak. So what I'm going to show you is how I go about prepping the board. Okay, so we're going to the consumer unit we've got here. Now, because the shop that is still running next door, and this is all becoming one, so if you haven't seen any of the previous videos, this is all going to become one big video. So I'm going to be prepping the board and getting as much done as I possibly can, so it reduces the amount of time that power is going to be off in that shop. So I'm going to show you how I go about that and what I'm going to do building that up and all the rest of it. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please make sure you do before you do anything else, before you do literally anything, okay? Then you make yourself a cup of tea, get some Bicky Wickies, and let's watch what I'm going to do. Okay, so what we're going to be fitting is a 19-way Fusebox board with an SPD installed obviously at source. It's a type 2 SPD, just so you know. So inside the board, obviously the lid cover off, what you normally get is obviously this is your Busbar cover that's already on. I've just took that out. And you'll also get a packet with Busbar and a load of stickers and all that sort of jazz that's involved in all that. So the other thing that you'll get with this is you'll have a meter tails clamp. Okay, so it's actually really quite a cool little feature on the Fusebox board, and loads of people have seen these all over the shop. So my plan is, so we're going to be using a tails gland that's going to be going in here. So we're going to knock that into that part there, and then we're going to knock out these two, and because we're going to mount this on a bit of a standoff board. That's what I'm planning on doing. But what I need to do first is get all these knocked out, and then we're going to be using some of this, which is basically I actually get it from Kian's dad, and I'm running low, Jace, so if you do watch this, which I doubt very much, I need some more sending. And it's actually made for, I think it's for the motor industry, to be fair, where it's like an edging trim, so I need to get some more. But the reason why I use that rather than what comes with it, because it sticks on really well, so obviously you can rag cables through really if you wanted to, and it won't move, so that's what we're going to be using. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so you can see everything as I'm doing it. So these are the RCBOs that we're going to be fitting. So these are standard height, so if you were doing an EV, for example, you want to have the miniature RCBOs because they're actually double pole switching. So what I mean by that, if you don't know what that is it actually, when you turn that off, it turns off the live and the neutral, so it disconnects both ends from the supply. So obviously don't need that now because we've not got anything like an EV going in here, it's a shop. So, but yeah, so like I say, bring you a bit closer and we can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, first things first, we're going to be knocking this out. So I'm going to use that one. So obviously using the right tool for the job. It feels too weird doing it that way. So a little bit of a tip is what you want to do is try and make sure that the two larger holes on the actual gland inside are towards the back, because once you've done that, you can then, sorry if you can see that, brother. So once you've done that, it'll actually, the meter tails are tucked behind the DIN rail a bit easier. That's what I've always found, to be fair. So that one and that one. Okay, so that's one of them, all done and dusted. So what I'll do is I'll rattle on to get the other one sorted for you now, but it's just important to try and push them right into the corners, because believe it or not, it's quite tricky to actually get on. But yeah, so I'll get that one sorted and then we'll see on the other side. Okay, so we're on to the meter tails now. So the meter tails that I always use is actually all these coloured, pre-coloured ones. So there's 25mm meter tails that we're using, because obviously you want to make sure you're all up to current dates and all the rest of it. I mean, you can use 16mm, but obviously for this installation, when you work out your loading, you should always really fit 25mm anyway, from standard. And then we've got some 16mm earth as well to go in. So this gland isn't the one we normally use, to be fair. We normally use the one that actually comes from Fusebox itself, but they've sent me a whisker one, so hopefully it should be all good to go. So we're going to get these pushed in. So I always start with the neutral, because the neutral is the furthest one away. So the neutral is actually on this side, obviously live on this side, and your buzz bar comes through. So I always start with the actual neutral itself. So I always bend it over sort of a palm's width on there. I just use the step cutters to go all the way through. And then what you'll notice is as you've bent it, I don't know whether I can see that properly, but I'll try and lift that up so you can see. So as you've bent it, you'll notice that some of the cores are all on different lengths now, whereas they weren't before, and it's because I've bent it round. Now, how many jobs do you go to where the meter tails aren't in the main switch properly? And a lot of it is down to this, is where they've just been lazy and not cut it properly, and they've just left it in that condition. But obviously then you've only got this section that's right at the bottom of the switch, and then further back is not got all the cores in correctly. So there's something to bear in mind, that if you are fitting that, you need to make sure that they're all flat and level, which is what they are now. And that's what you should do every time. I mean, like I say, we all know the sort of people who do that, but okay, so into the main switch, and then we'll torque all these down, obviously once it's all built up properly. Okay. Okay, so that's all the bits of copper out in there. So that's that section all built up, all ready to go for the meters. Okay, so what I've done with that, I always bring my mains earthing in when it's obviously new anyway, so a new install. Bring it along the bottom, curl it up here, and then I label all these up as well, so you'll have water bond and gas bond, but there's no gas in this one, so it would just be water bond on here. So this one, if you don't know what that is, that's my earth lead for my SPD that goes on. Obviously there's a set length of what that can be, can't exactly remember what it is, but I think it's less than 30 centimeters, I think, or 300 mil as such. So yeah, so your tails are all in. I've always preferred to do it this way. Some people do it opposite and they do them last, but I find that it's easier for me to get them in all like that in one go. So because they're all radial circuits, it's all basically radial circuits that are going in here. So they're all 16 amps apart from the condensers on the outside. They want them 20 amp for some reason, although I don't think they're actually needed to be 20 amp, but that's what they want. So what we're going to do is rattle all the way through there. I think I've got 2 6 amps through, but I'm going to show you a little way of how I go about when you've got multiple RCBOs going in, how I do it to try and tuck as much as the flying lead away without having to cut them and shorten them all up. So, right, that's what I've been doing. Okay, so when you get the RCBOs, they come out of the packet and they've got like a little, so you've got your flying lead on it and what I would call like a sandwich bag tie. So first thing you need to do is obviously get rid of that and then straighten it out a bit. That's the best way I find for doing these things. Also, I don't know why, I've obviously just realised that I've just built the whole thing up on the floor on top of the Fusebox board box when I'm on my knees. I don't need to do that. I've got a table in the van and I was just being lazy, I think, and not getting it out. So now I'm out because it was doing my nut in. Actually, don't know why I did that. So, right, so the board. So what I normally do, so you start with your highest loads all the way working that way normally, okay? Sometimes if you're doing a board and it's, you know, an existing installation, you don't really know what's going on in there at all. So your cables might be a bit short, so you have to adjust to suit. But obviously in here, it's a different matter. So what I normally do, stick it in there, tuck it behind. So once you've got that screwed in, so as you're pushing it along, you're tucking it behind all the the DIN rail, sorry. So as you're pushing it in, you'll see how it loses all that. You won't see any of that at the bottom, and then you just basically work your way along. So next one. Just cut, straighten it out, clip it in, and start tucking it down already behind your meter tails. And then straight along, and as you're going, feed it down and neaten them all up. So don't worry if it's come out here a little bit, because it's all going to get hidden. So what you want to achieve is, if I can see that, so what you want to achieve, I know it's upside down for you guys, you want to achieve a low sort of bit of cable here, because that will get in your way. And then basically that's it. That's how I go about doing it. So you just keep working and working and working until you've got them all loaded up, and then you can get your Busbar on. But what I've noticed as well is with which I'll show you a bit later on, you'll understand, but when you've got more and more RCBOs in, as you're tightening up your Busbar, these all tend to try and kick over. So you have to be really careful and trying to keep them obviously all vertical, else it becomes a bit of an issue. So what I'll do is I'll rattle through all of these, get all these in and sorted, and then we'll catch up with you when I'm ready to do the Busbar. Okay, so the RCBOs are all in. So there is a lot of blanks in here because I've still got on the original shop, I've still got to put a few more circuits in, but I'm not entirely sure at the minute, is when we switch over from the old shop to the new shop, there's some circuits in there that are no longer going to be needed. So I don't want to whack loads of RCBOs in just for the sake of it, because obviously it's pointless. So there's plenty of room to grow as well, because obviously you want to make sure that happens, because as the business changes, new things that needed, we've got plenty of circuits to go in. So Busbar. So what we've got to do, you see there, we've actually got a larger end, and obviously then all the rest are all exactly the same. So the larger end goes in, as you can imagine, onto the main switch, and then you work your way down all the way through. So because this is a larger board, you need to make sure is as you're putting it in, if you're dropping it like this, that it's all gone to the back, because then you'll know that every one of these going into the actual terminals correctly. So what I do is start at one end, okay, and just nip that up. It is really important that you don't use a impact driver on these for obvious reasons. Now, I have got a little screw gun that you can turn the torque right down, so it was literally, you wouldn't even be able to do that to it. I have used that before, I'm not going to lie. It's fine, it's because obviously I'm not an idiot and I don't just keep going, but impact drivers have a way of over tightening things. So what I'll do is I'll nip this end up, but as you're working your way through, is what you'll find is they will try and tip over. So I'll try and do it so all the way through, because I've got to torque all these up anyway, is not to go too mad, because you need to make sure that your torque screwdriver actually goes off. So I'll just rattle through all those, and then we'll go and grab the torque screwdriver. Okay, so they're all nipped up. So next stage for me is to get the torque screwdriver, and we'll go through all that. Okay, torque screwdriver. So obviously on here we've got a set measurement. So the main switch is 2.5 newtons. All across the RCBOs at the bottom is 2.5. These are all labelled up anyway, which is great. So what I normally do is just start on my highest, and then finish off on your lowest. So I've got 2 newtons across here, and then these go down to 1.2. It doesn't sound a lot, but obviously I ain't got to do them right now. But then basically just as you've gone that's as tight as it needs to be. As soon as you do one click, you don't need to keep going. So the other thing you need to do is check tightness from the factory. So if you see there, it went 1/4 of a turn. So that's obviously not correct. So it needed to be checked. It's really, really important. Same on the bottom here. Okay, so there's a little bit tighter than what it needed to be, because if you have a fire, then generally what happens is from a bad connection on there. Okay, so that's those. So I've also got a pre-installed lead here on there, so that needs to make sure it's right. So now I'm going to step down to the 2 newtons. So to do that, is you just pull that back on this one, and then wind it down to 2, which is what I'm at now. And you get the gist of it, you just work your way through. Okay, so that's that all torqued up. And then the gist of it is, you whack your Busbar cover on, but can you see slightly how they are kinked over? And that is because you've just tightened them up. I don't know why it does that. It's a little bit frustrating, but I've tried several different things. I've tried clamping them all together as I'm tightening. Doesn't seem to make any difference whatsoever. Don't know why. So Fusebox, if you can let me know what is the cure for that, then let me know. But yeah, so that's basically how you build up your board ready to go. So next stage for me is to get it mounted, get it on some standoffs, on the wall, so then all the cables can come in through the back on this one. And then what it's going to allow me to do is now I'm going to get all the cables in from all the new side of the shop, so they're all in ready to go, so it's going to cut down on my time. So yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you've learned something, great. If you've got something that you want me to perhaps try on a different one, let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.